Hi, welcome to this Astrology Chat Live for February 1st and 2nd, 2025. I'm recording this today on February 1st, and I will be back again tomorrow, but this reading is really relevant for both days of this first weekend of February 2025. I'm happy to have you here today. You know, when I was looking at the astrology of the year ahead, back at the end of 2024, I really couldn't believe some of the things that I was seeing around February, March, and April. There's just so much happening in the late Pisces, early Aries part of the sky that I started to worry about how I was going to talk about that because it's just so many energies combined all at the same time that it's a bit tricky to delineate and explain and express and understand. But also, it happens so quickly. It's such a complex alignment, and there are so many moving parts. You know, normally when I do horoscopes for the month, I pick out 3 or 4 or 5 important dates, important transits, and focus on that. And that's very hard to do in February, March, and April of this year. And that excitement, that new story really begins this weekend, really begins right now. It really began, I think, with this new moon that we just had in Aquarius. The moon was just meeting up with the sun in Aquarius. Pluto is newly there. Mercury is there. And so that was really exciting. And those energies are still active for the next 2 weeks until we have our next lunation. So that's relevant. And then also, we just have this really incredible alignment in Pisces. We have 4 planets, 4 points coming together in the sky. We have the North Node, Neptune, Venus, and later today, the moon will be in a conjunction with these points as well. So I want to talk about that whole story because it really is quite something. And again, this is really kind of what made me want to do daily astrology this year. The astrology of 2025 and 2026 is quite extraordinary. It certainly happens sometimes that we have era shifts, but I haven't seen one like this. The last time that we were so focused on sort of these big outer changes was 2012, 2016. And I feel like we've been in another period like that from 2020 and then 2025, 2026. And the thing that jumps out at you right away about that is the outer planets. You know, if you just look at basically any chart for late 2024, 2025, or early 2026 as an astrologer, you can't help but notice these outer planets changing signs. Let me just show that on the chart real quick and discuss that. We have Pluto newly in Aquarius here. So Pluto changed signs at the very end of 2024. And this is something that only happens every 15 to 20 years because of Pluto's elliptical orbit. It's irregular. We also have Neptune changing signs right now. Again, this only happens every decade or two, you know. I think when was the last time Neptune changed signs? I don't have this information written in front of me and I don't want to slow us down by looking it up. I think it was 2016. So it's about every 9 or 10 years for Neptune. Neptune will be doing some dances back and forth over this Pisces Aries axis. We will get into that as I talk about the Pisces stellium. But just talking about outer planets for a second here. We also have Uranus changing signs in 2025. Uranus will move into Gemini. Oh my gosh, Uranus is the planet that changed signs in 2016. I apologize. Neptune was even longer ago than that. Neptune was like 2012 or something like that. If anyone can see it by any chance, If you could put it in the chat, that would be amazing. Again, I just don't want to slow us down by looking it up. But basically, these are the 3 slowest moving planets. They take forever to change signs. 20 years, 15 years, 10 years. And so them all moving in late 24 through early 2026 is so significant. And that feels like an energy shift in the collective, right? This feels like a shift for everyone. When we look at the personal planets, Mars, Mercury, Venus, that's more about us and our personal experience in the world and our personal lives. The outer planets say something about what's happening in the collective, what's happening for everyone, sort of the era in general. And so this is a huge era shift. And it's so interesting the way that it aligns with some of the changes in 2020, some of the key dates then. I'm not going to go into all of that now, but I will say that Jupiter and Saturn met up. The last time they had a conjunction, it was at 0, 1 degree of Aquarius. Again, just sort of opening up and entering us into this new era. I have a separate video on the Jupiter-Uranus timing. I'm going to link that here, even though it was a few weeks ago. It's still relevant, and the timing of all that is really interesting. I need to do another video about that again. Okay, so now that we have that as sort of a background, when you're looking at the astrology for this larger time period, one of the first things that might jump out at you as an astrologer is the fact that all of these outer planets are changing signs. And that says something about what's going on in the collective. But more acutely, this weekend, let's talk about a couple things. First, I want to talk about the new moon that we just had over here in Aquarius. Let's do that first, because it was very significant. So the moon was just here as well and met up with the sun just after Pluto has moved into this sign and house. Mercury is here, and it's also all yeah, okay, let's just talk about that new moon. It's really activating that Pluto in Aquarius is what I wanted to say. That Pluto in Aquarius is really kind of coming online in a different way now that it's been illuminated by these planets. Okay, and this is a new start. It's new ideas, it's new information, it's new ways of seeing things, new ways of doing things. There's a revolutionary energy to new moon to all this Aquarius energy, to Pluto and Aquarius activated by this new moon. You may be able to find solutions to problems that have been stuck. You may find yourself having conversations that you've never had before. There's something really fresh and different and forward thinking about this. It can relate to technology in some kind of a way. It can relate to social media, to friends, to groups. There's sort of an interesting connection to people with this. It's sort of detached, but humanitarian at the same time. There's sort of a care, a deep, deep care and concern for the world and for people in general and for the earth itself and all beings. But there's sort of an emotional detachment that might seem sort of odd at first, but it actually facilitates the care and the concern and the help that's able to be provided, because there's sort of an intellectual distance that comes with this. So when the emotions are turned down a little bit and you're able to think more clearly, you're able to act. You know, if we're so overrun by how much we care and like our emotional attachment to everything, it can be hard to move. It can be hard to act. But there's sort of a distancing from that allows for these new creative solutions, these different way of seeing things, these different way of doing things, of talking. And because Pluto is there, There's an element of this that goes very deep, that's very intense, and that is unfolding and that we don't understand right now. It has not fully opened up for us. We can't understand it until we're a little deeper into the transit. I'm saying that because that's how new and different it is. It's like beyond our comprehension. Okay. So we have those outer planets changing signs. We talked about that big era shift in the world. We have this new moon in Aquarius energy that we're really still in because that new moon is still active, especially with Pluto there. It's really relevant. Okay, and now let's talk about what's going on down here in Pisces. I have to make my magnifier a little bit bigger to hold it all in there. Okay, so Saturn is actually not directly involved in this particular stellium. We're looking at the 27th, 28th degree point here. And Saturn is a little bit behind, but Saturn is in this sign and house, very serious planet, and has been for a while, so I want to mention it here. So for the last bit, when was it? March of 23. It's been a while. We have been working with Saturn in Pisces for over a year. And it's sort of brought a seriousness to a place in our lives where maybe we'd had a hard time sort of reining it in. Wherever you have Pisces, you have great in your chart, you have great potential in these areas, but it can be kind of hard to harness. You know, it's so watery, it's so loose, it's so open that sometimes it can be very hard to sort of accomplish our goals or move things forward when there's a lot of Pisces, but there's a lot of potential there as well. So there may have been parts of your life that you found solutions to in the last year that you hadn't been able to find solutions to before. And if you look at your chart and look where Pisces rules, that can help you to know that. You can check my horoscopes for your rising sign. If you're looking for that information, you should always read your horoscopes for your rising sign. But just to say, we've been doing a lot of work in an area where we kind of needed it, and Saturn has been providing us with some tips and some help for forward progress, which is much appreciated because we have a hard time sort of getting that direction when it comes to our Pisces part of our chart. Okay. The North Node moves backwards through the chart. Everything else moves this way, but the North Node moves this way. So the North Node is coming along here to conjunct Neptune, Venus, and the Moon. They're all going to sort of connect today around the 27th, 28th degree point. Venus is going to continue on and go retrograde. So there's this whole dance happening here, guys. There's this whole dance happening here. And that's why I said this new story begins. When I was looking in late 2024 at the astrology of the year ahead, and I thought, how am I going to describe this? I would have to come on every day in order to explain this. This is what I was talking about. This is the beginning. February is the beginning of that. Okay? So let's actually break it down one planet at a time here. So when we're talking about Venus and Pisces is exalted. This is the best place for Pisces. And that gives this planet sort of extra power. Venus is a beautiful planet for love, for finances, for compassion. And in Pisces, all of those traits are exalted. So it's not just love, it's unconditional love. It's not just creativity, it's inspiration. It's not just compassion, it's empathy. So there is a real harmony, potential, creative force as a part of this transit. And even though Venus is a slower moving planet, you would think Neptune and the North Node would really sort of dominate the energies there. They won't as much because Venus is exalted. And like I said, March 1st, Venus will have moved into Aries. Venus will retrograde and will be coming back over these points in the sky again, and then we'll continue on. Let me actually just draw that incredibly quickly. If you are watching the video, this might be helpful. It's just a simple arrow diagram to draw. It won't take me long, but it might be helpful to see this. Okay, so we see where Venus is now. Venus is going to go into Aries, go retrograde, go back into this part of Pisces, go direct before finally moving on and out and into Aries and the rest of the signs for good. That's very distracting. I'm not sure how that got there. So we're traversing these same points in the sky sort of over and over again, making multiple connections with Neptune, making multiple connections with the North Node. Okay. So back to our original diagram and breaking down each of these planets sort of one at a time. So Venus, we have relationships, we have finances, we have creativity, beauty, harmony. There's something about it in Pisces where we have very fluid boundaries in relationships. The sort of separation between self and other is a little bit blurred. Okay, the North Node is bringing in sort of a faded karmic influence. The North Node brings us in the direction we're meant to go, whatever that means for you. If you believe in, I don't know, soul contracts, past lives, karma, whatever it is you believe in, destiny, fate, the North Node relates to that. So that being there as well is super interesting with relationships. Okay, then we have Neptune. Neptune provides intuition, spirituality. Neptune can sort of merge with the other as well. It can be so spiritual that the boundaries are blurred, and there can be a potential sort of to idealize a situation or a person. There can also be confusion. There can also be a beautiful merging. I love Neptune-Venus aspects in general because they're just amazing relationship, love aspects. The boundaries between people are really blurred, and there's a higher spiritual connection in all relationships. That potential is there in all connections. But sometimes that can almost be a little confusing, And now the moon moves pretty quickly, but the fact that the moon here is at this exact time is significant. And I think it's sort of amping everything up emotionally and maybe sort of, it's like showing me that there's something subconscious about this. It's like it's happening subconsciously. There's so much Pisces. Pisces is so like with us but not with us, sort of comes in and out with being in a grounded reality, so just all of it all together. I wonder if it's sort of happening subconsciously. But this incredible potential is starting now and beginning to unfold. It might be interesting to take notes about what's coming up for you this weekend, because it's the beginning of a story that will unfold for a couple of months, involving themes around romance, art, fluidity in terms of boundaries in relationships, destiny, karma, a new direction, heightened intuition, spirituality, idealism, perhaps a bit of confusion, amplified emotions. And remember as well that it is taking place at the same time as we're in those energies after that Aquarius new moon and the Pisces in Aquarius, and just everything that's happening in here is so intense. And we also have those outer planets changing signs, which suggests a change as well. So I appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much. I will be back again tomorrow.